G'day, it's Brett here from BWCflies. In today's tying session, we're going to go through the Barra bunny for the self-tying kit, which is available at the BCF Townsville store. So thank you very much to the people that have purchased the kit so far. And in the kit, you would have received a portion of craft fur, a couple of strips of black rabbit, a couple of strips of purple rabbit, some Gamakatsu hooks in the 2.0 size, and also some structure guards for the front of the fly. And then to complete the tie with this pattern, you're going to need your scissors. You'll need a bobbin spooled up with 210 denier thread, and that spool of thread comes inside of the kit as well. You may need a bodkin for the UV resin application at the end, depending on how much you use. So that's kind of, that's a maybe. Then you'll need some UV resin in the thin formula, and then also your UV torch to set that resin. Okay, so this is a pretty easy fly. Really effective for throwing into the mangrove structures for the barramundi and mangrove jack. But anyway, first of all, we've put the hook in to the vise with a nice horizontal shank, and then with your thread and your bobbin, we're going to start right behind the eye and put in a little base of thread, just like so. I'm going to bring that back up to just behind the eye. We'll cut that little tag off. And the first part is to actually put the guard on. Okay, so with your guard that you have inside of your kit, we're going to put the two ends together, like so, just so we can form a little loop that looks a little bit like that. Turn your hook shank over so you're then working on the underside of the shank, and we're going to lock that in with a couple of wraps at first, like so. Because what we actually want to do, we're going to bend this guard up like it was in place, and you want it so it's just touching the point of that hook. So you should be able to see that quite clearly. Once you've got that positioning right, you can cut the little tag ends off, like so, and then bind them down. Trying to keep all of that centered on the underside of the hook shank, okay? So just like, then keep taking your thread backwards for about another 4 or 5 mils. So when it's in the upright position, that's what it's going to look like, okay? Now from the patch of craft fur that you get, just take off a patch or a clump. It's probably about half a pencil's or pen's kind of thickness. Generally what I do here is that I hold the butts and then pull the tips out and then remarry them over, like so, okay? And then you'll actually use more materials in a less amount of space, okay? So back on the underside of the hook, we'll spin that back around. I'm going to push that over the point of the barb and just lock that down with a couple of thread wraps, like so, okay? And then all of these butt sections, I'm going to clip them off and tidy that area up. I just like the craft fur under there just to give the fly just a little bit more body under the tail, okay? So you can see where we're at. tidy that up just a little bit. Okay, we've got our guard in place. Just going to get rid of that. We've got our craft fur belly in place. Now from the length of rabbit strip you get, we're going to attach this to the top. Okay, what I generally do is grab your super glue from your bench and I just run a little bead over that thread. Not too much, just a tiny little bead on the top there. So what that does, that helps adhere the rabbit hide to the thread. It just gives your fly a little bit more durability. So we're going to push that on just like so and bind that down. Okay, that should be well and truly stuck in place. And then you want to trim that tail so that it's approximately the same length or just a little bit longer compared to the tips of the craft fur. So there's the tips of the craft fur back here, and then you've got the actual fur of the rabbit just a little bit longer than that. Okay, so the next step is to put the collar on. So with the purple cross-cut strip of rabbit that you get, what I do like to do is actually cut that on a bit of an angle. It just helps binding that in. So with that little triangle, we're going to bind that in place, and you take your thread almost back to where the black rabbit starts, and just going to smooth that out with my thread. Okay, so we've got a nice platform to work with. Same sort of thing as with the tail. We're just going to put a bead of super glue over the top, just like so. And then we're going to wrap the purple rabbit around the hook shank, just so it overlaps each other as we go. Okay, and that's where your super glue becomes handy. It just makes a nice bond. And we want to finish that off with a nice tapered head on the front. So a couple of fairly firm wraps there just to lock that purple rabbit in. Then take your scissor points in underneath of there and clip the excess off. And then with your thread start to form a nice bullet head shape to finish that fly. And you can actually take that thread backwards over the rabbit a little bit so it pushes the rabbit fur in a rearwards direction just a little bit further. And then we're going to whip finish that fly. Now I do like to take the whip finish underneath or above the guard and underneath of the hook eye at the end, just to lock that in nice and tight. So we're going to clip that. That's the finished fly, and then we're going to apply some UV resin to the threads here at the front. Not too much, because you don't want too much to run towards that rabbit. It's okay if it just touches it a tiny little bit. So that's about the appropriate amount. Just like so. Then grab the torch and we're just going to set that resin in place. That should be enough. There we go. And then with your guard, you can actually bend your guard like so, so that it sits at 90 degrees to the hook shank. So that's the finished product. Now I tie them with a loop guard on the front here, but if you do prefer twin post sprags, which is what they're referred to, then you can easily cut that down the middle and then push it back and align it so that they're around about the point of the hook. Okay, but it's easier to tie them this way, and then if you want to do that, then that option becomes yours. But anyway, that's the Barra bunny. Super effective fly, really light in weight. You can cast that right into the timber structure and really bounce it through the snags for those barramundi and mangrove jack. Anyway, thanks for watching. The self-tying kit is available at BCF at Townsville. I hopefully you've learnt something from that tying demonstration, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.